The European Union and Mexico have expressed disappointment after President Trump said he would impose 30% tariffs on their exports to the US from August.
We have always been very clear that we prefer a negotiated solution. This remains the case, and we will use the time that we have now till the 1st of August.
Trump imposes a 30% tariff on Canada, the EU, and Mexico. What happens next could change global trade forever. What does this mean for the future of international trade? Will these tariffs divide longtime allies, or could they force a groundbreaking trade deal? Let's break it down. In early July, President Donald Trump made a bold move that sent shockwaves through global markets. He announced that, starting August 1st, the United States would impose a 30% tariff on goods from Canada, the European Union, and Mexico, all of whom have been America's longtime allies. What made this announcement even more shocking? These weren't adversaries looking for a trade fight. These were close partners. These tariffs weren't aimed at competitors or adversaries. They were aimed at nations that had worked alongside the US for decades. And the timing couldn't have been worse. The tariffs came mid-negotiation, leaving these allies scrambling to react, adjust, and try to avoid the escalating costs. So, what was Trump's message? Agree to new trade terms by August 1st or face significant financial penalties. A deadline was set, but the implications of this strategy were far from clear. Would these partners yield under pressure, or would they fight back? The first country to respond was Canada. Prime Minister Mark Carney, who had originally set a July 21st deadline to finalize negotiations, didn't waste time. After receiving Trump's tariff letter, he quickly extended the deadline to August 1st, aligning it with Trump's ultimatum. But Canada's response wasn't one of immediate retaliation. Instead, they took a calm and strategic approach. Canada chose dialogue over confrontation, signaling that they weren't going to back down, but they were also committed to keeping the lines of communication open. Canada wasn't just being passive. They were strategically holding firm. The goal? To protect key industries like steel, autos, and copper, which had already been hit by earlier tariffs. It wasn't just about negotiating the deal. It was about protecting jobs and ensuring long-term stability in industries vital to Canada's economy. The European Union wasn't about to sit back and watch. President Ursula von der Leyen made it clear. The EU would continue discussions right up until August 1st, but they weren't backing down. If Trump's tariffs went through, countermeasures would be swiftly implemented. The economic consequences for the EU were hard to ignore. If the 30% tariff were enforced, it could wipe out 0.4% of Eurozone GDP, a serious blow that could push 2025 economic growth to a halt. The numbers don't lie. The EU wasn't just facing a trade issue, they were facing a potential crisis. But the EU isn't taking this lying down. They're not just waiting to see what happens, they're preparing to strike back. The message from Brussels? If you push us, we'll push back. Mexico wasn't about to bend either. While the country quickly labeled the tariff as unfair, they made it crystal clear. They were committed to negotiations. The U.S. had long viewed Mexico as a key partner in the USMCA trade agreement, so this unexpected tariff move caught many off guard. But what Mexico's leaders made undeniably clear was this: we're not alone in this world. Mexico wasn't just standing still, they were standing strong. Despite the pressure from the U.S., they knew they had alliances to lean on. The message was simple. Mexico was committed to finding a fair deal, but they weren't going to be bullied into submission. This isn't just about trade numbers or tariff rates. It's about trust. For decades, countries like Canada, the EU, and Mexico have worked hand in hand with the U.S., assuming that any disagreements would be handled behind closed doors, not through public threats. Now these once stable relationships are being put to the test. Nations that have built their economies alongside the U.S. are now being forced to make a difficult decision: accept last-minute demands or face economic punishment. Trump's strategy has transformed diplomacy into a high-stakes game, where trust, the very foundation of these alliances, is being tested in a way we've never seen before. The question remains, can these countries hold on to that trust, or will it fracture under the pressure? As if things weren't already tense, Trump ramped up the pressure by announcing a 50% tariff on Brazilian imports, effective August 1st. But this wasn't just another economic move. It was a political statement. Trump tied the tariff directly to Brazil's handling of former President Jair Bolsonaro, turning what should have been a trade decision into a power play. This wasn't a negotiation. It was a punishment. Brazil didn't get the chance to discuss terms or reach a deal. Instead, they were sent a clear message: power over trade. With this move, Trump made it clear: tariffs aren't just about economics. They're about controlling the narrative and asserting dominance. As August 1st draws closer, nations around the world are staring down the barrel of these devastating tariffs. Canada, the EU, and Mexico are locked in intense negotiations, with time running out. The pressure is mounting, and the stakes couldn't be higher. What happens when the deadline hits? Will these countries agree to Trump's terms, accepting the economic penalties to avoid a deeper conflict? Or will they stand their ground, risking economic fallout to maintain their sovereignty and negotiating power? The world is watching closely as the clock ticks down, and the next move could reshape international trade forever. Trump's tariff strategy is unlike anything we've seen before. It's not just about the trade balance, it's about power, trust, and relationships. The very future of global trade hangs in the balance, and what happens next could have far-reaching consequences. As August 1st draws nearer, the question remains: will these tariffs bring about a new trade order, or will they deepen the rift between longtime allies? The clock is ticking, and only time will tell how this all plays out. One thing is certain: this isn't just a negotiation, it's a countdown, and the world is waiting for the next move.